From someone who has spent considerable amounts of practice time with the metronome, I can tell you wholeheartedly that it is of critical importance for the development of your rhythm and your time, and it gives you such a greater degree of confidence in any sort of musical situation that you will be involved with. Now why is this? Why is practicing with a metronome so important outside of the more surface benefits that we all know, where it's going to strengthen your time and your overall rhythm and feel? Well, think about this. The three pillars of music, if you will, are melody, harmony, and rhythm. Okay? Melody is melody. We've all heard a great melody, whether it's played on a saxophone by a jazz group, or it's sung by a singer in a pop or a rock setting. Harmony is essentially chords, okay? And harmony sort of serves the melody as a way to accompany it. And rhythm, of course, is rhythm. We all know what rhythm is, okay? Now, with those three pillars, though, what is the most important of the three pillars? Well, I would say to you that it's rhythm. And the reason I would say that is because melody is just melody. But melody has rhythm to it, okay? You've never really heard a melody that is sung or played that didn't have some sort of rhythmic component to it. Harmony, the next pillar, which is essentially the chordal accompaniment, if you will, of melody, well, that has rhythm to it. When a guitar player accompanies a singer who is singing, that guitar player is playing some sort of chord or series of chords in a rhythmic fashion. And then the third pillar being rhythm, again, that's a whole category unto its own. So the point I'm trying to make is that the umbrella that sort of spreads across these three pillars is rhythm. And that's why working with a metronome is so important, because rhythm in and of itself is just so important to music in general. Now, I will say one thing about a metronome that I think is very unique that I don't hear a lot of people talk about. I've been fortunate to have taught thousands of students at this point, and what's interesting to me is I can put on a metronome and I can have a student play a chord progression to that metronome. And what I've seen so many times is that they can't do it. They're either dragging, they're rushing, or they're just literally completely off. But at the same time, if I play to the metronome the same chord progression with them and they join in and play with me, they play it perfectly in time. Or if I have them, instead of playing with the metronome, if I have them play to the song, let's say the recorded song, they have no problem. Or if I bring them into some sort of ensemble environment where there are other musicians, a drummer, bassist, and other players as well, they have no problem. Yet at the same time, they have difficulty with a metronome. It really doesn't make a lot of sense, because if a metronome is something that helps you hone your rhythm and you can't do it, but then again you can do all these other things and seemingly have no problem. So where is the disconnect? Well, I've really had to analyze this over the years, and I'm mentioning this because I know that playing with with a metronome is difficult for people, and I want to kind of explain why that is the case, and hopefully alleviate some of your frustration if you're having that, where you're playing with a metronome and can't do it, but at the same time you feel that your rhythm is already pretty decent. I think what happens is, if you think about a metronome, let's say you've got it clicking. Click, 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 okay? So that's a rather slow tempo that I just sung, right? Well, with a metronome, it's just a click, and there's nothing in between that space, okay? You got a click here, you got a click here, and there's nothing in between that space. It's completely blank. Yet, if you took the same tempo, okay, and you had a drummer playing, and the drummer's going doom doom da doom doom da, the drummer is sort of subdividing the clicks. The drummer is playing all the gradations in between, okay, as well as the clicking pulse, whereas the metronome is just click, nothing, click, nothing, click. You see? So that's what I'm trying to drive home here, is that when you play with a metronome, it is probably the highest level and highest degree of being exposed rhythmically. Okay, you feel like you're kind of naked out there, right? Whereas when you're playing with a band and you've got a drummer kind of, demarcating, everything in between, you've got other instrumentalists in the group doing the same thing, you have more support, you have more strength in numbers, whereas the metronome is just, it's very revealing in that it's very stark, okay? And it doesn't give you anything in those spaces, yet at the same time, because of that, and because of that difficulty that it leads us to, it is one of the highest degrees of ways that we can hone our rhythmic facilities, okay? So practice with a metronome. If you haven't done it much, it's going to be frustrating because of the things that I just illustrated. But hang in there with it. Over time, you will get it, because if you already have that kind of inner clock, it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of experience and putting in the work. But ultimately, because of that revealing nature of the metronome and it being so stark and not giving you a lot of that variation in between, it's tremendously helpful, even more so than playing with your favorite albums and even playing with a band.